You've seen the second largest earthquake in human history. Now get ready for the largest flood in human history, the 1931 China floods, brought to you by none other than Philip Niskanovich. So how did this happen? Let's set the stage a bit. Well, Chris Courtney perfectly summarizes the causes of the flood. The catastrophic flood that struck China in the summer of 1931 was neither a natural nor a human-made disaster. It was both. But to be able to understand this, we first have to look back to China's agricultural practices. Farmers were just transforming the terrain to their liking. They were just cutting down trees and expanding their farms recklessly. And that is a bad thing to do in the Yangtze region, a region already known for the fact that it floods periodically. It also gets worse. They were leading up to the time of the historic flood, there were extraordinarily high levels of rain. But it gets even worse than that. The winter that led up to this catastrophe was just as ruthless. It left massive deposits of snow, and it froze rivers when spring arrived. Every single warning bell should have been going off. In an average year, this region could expect to see 2 cyclonic storms per year. Now that's a lot even for any region, but in July alone, they faced a total of 7, more than 3 times that amount. A bone-chilling prologue to what would come to be known as the most deadly flood in human history. But how big was this biggest flood in human history? I'm over here talking about how big was it actually? Well, the total water was able to fill not just England, but England and over half of Scotland combined. A truly colossal amount of water, and this water was not shallow in the slightest. It ran 2 meters deep, or roughly 7 feet, and it showed no signs of stopping. This flood came in June, and in some places it just didn't leave until November. It just stayed for half a year. Have fun with that. But what happened to the people there? Well, what did it lead to? And where would one even begin? Probably the body count, but well, when it was all said and done, over 3.7 million people were dead from flood-related causes. Just in 5 months, 2.7 million people gone. That's larger than the combined losses of France, Britain, and the United States through all of World War I, overshadowing half of the second deadliest conflict in human history, the war to end all wars. No, Mother Nature has other plans. The water quantity did increase, but the problem is that a lot of that water came up from the sewers, which meant that their bowels were basically just filtered into the water, which led to a ton of waterborne diseases that got worse, especially in summer when things were hot, and just as many people died from illness and starvation as people who drowned. Day-to-day life, forget about it, ruined. Electricity, telegraphs, and airports, gone. Screw it. Corpses floating on the water was a common sight, and it was just left uncontrolled, and it made diseases even worse. Even worse. Mosquitoes were rampant, and those on their own are terrible, let alone with everything else going on. I would try to look up a monetary sum for how much damage the flood did, but honestly, if I had to say, there is no amount of money that is capable of describing the damage the flood did to just the people of China. Money, whatever worth we give to money, is not enough to encapsulate the damage that was done and the lives that were lost. But despite this tragedy that came to people's doorstep, the people who lived here persisted. They came together and they did what they could. They fundraised for food, they distributed water, they cleaned up what they could, they created refugee camps, monk temples were converted into refugee camps, people took in as much people as they could into hotels. It was a joint operation to survive in a term known as crisis solidarity. where people worked together to make the best of the situation. They did things like build wooden bridges and build these shacks you can see at the bottom picture actually, and just hung on for their dear life until the worst flood in human history passed them by. Here are my sources, and this has been Philip Niskanovich with the 1931 China flood. Stay safe.